the world's a stage and all the men and women consumers. Uh, so we are talking about, I mean, just take a thing like family planning, which I worked on for years and years and years. And then eventually I was given a brand from Gautam Singhania of the JK Group, and it was a condom. And the research we did showed that actually the only condom really well known in India at that time was Nirod. Nirod was free, Nirod you could get at any place, and we did research and we found again that people said that the last thing they would use when they were going to have pleasure was Nirod, because Nirod was anti-pleasure. And on that basis, we said, well, why can't a condom be pro-pleasure? In other words, pro-sex rather than anti-sex. And from that grew the idea of the Kama Sutra condom, which for the first time, I think, anywhere in the world at that time, said that for the pleasure of making love, which got me into a lot of trouble with ASCI, that's the Advertising Standards Council of India, who said, Mr. Padamsee, you cannot say that. That is absolutely, that is vulgar. You can. I said, it's the truth. He said, oh, no, 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 no. I said, well, if condoms are not for the pleasure of making love, what are they for? Blowing balloons? And seriously, there are a lot of people on the government side, or I mean on the authority side, and I think Piyush will second me that, and so will Agni, is that they just think in a totally blinded vision, blinkered vision, like a horse, it has these two things on either side, and you can't see anything else, just straight. So what advertising does, it opens up the whole area of what products are. Products are proxies for consumers. The housewife who says, I'll use Literal because I want to escape, is using a kind of proxy product. Someone who uses the Kama Sutra condom, it suddenly makes it popular and they want to use it because it denotes the fact that that's what they're doing. They are making love, and here is something that will help them to make love better, rather than Nirod, which is turning them off. And I think one of the great anti-family planning devices was the two. One was the Nirod, because such, when people say, hey, dirty rubber cheese, rubber it was called. And the second one, of course, is not to do with advertising so much, is to do with the government of India and propaganda, which no longer, thank God, exists, was the documentary film that was shown absolutely 100%, because a law was passed, that every movie was preceded by a documentary film, and that sent up the sale of cigarettes. Everyone rushed into the lobby and started smoking because they did not want to see another documentary film. So it's strange that these things that interact in our life, we don't look at them. And I think Piyush made a very good point. We don't do them consciously to tell you that, we want to promote family planning, which we did, by the way, through the Kama Sutra Combat. And now all of them are all promoting good sex. And that will certainly increase the use of condoms. We don't do it deliberately. We did it for our brand. And suddenly that catches on. And I think that idea of the Cadbury girl dancing out onto that pitch in that wild and really incredibly crazy kind of dance is an icon. And these are icons, whether it's a little girl or whatever. And gradually, brands, I might say, or products, new products, are changing the face of, or I should say, the heart of the consumer and even the mind of the consumer. Take a recent example that I was involved in. We at Emami, and I'm a consultant to the Emami Group, which is a big group in Eastern India, but not here, wanted to fight Fair and Lovely. And there was no way you can fight Fair and Lovely because, as everyone knows, it's a God brand. I launched it in 1970. Much to the dismay of a lot of people who said, how can you? That's another story. So I said, well, why are we trying to go up against entrenched? And I said, I think I have a theory. And I put up a mirror in the office. And I got someone quietly to sit near the mirror. Looked like she was very busy, but actually she was noting how many women stopped in front of the mirror and how many men. And we found that 100% of women stopped in front of the mirror to look whether their kajal was okay, whether if they were wearing a bindi, it was okay, their hair. And 90% of men. And they would stand in front of the mirror and go, oh, is my hair all right? Oh, God, what is that? There's a pimple coming up and so on and so forth. So in other words, men were as vain as women. Men wanted to look good. And then we studied the Fair and Lovely figures and found that 30% of Fair and Lovely users were not buyers of Fair and Lovely, but were users. They were borrowing from their wives or their girlfriends or their sisters or their mothers, chupi, and using it. And on this basis, we then came out with Fair and Handsome. And everyone laughed and said, how can men, why would men use a fairness product? And we found that yes, the men in India are just as vain as the women.
Fair and Lovely is an interesting sort of, because it's always, I'm sort of preempting a question which is inevitable. Any advertising discussion, I think, will have this one question on the whole notion of fairness and the fact that it might be the truth. There might be truth in the fact that there are people who want to be fairer. But is there a boundary that advertising needs to draw for itself? Is speaking to that truth in some ways promoting, something that you would not want to promote? And to that extent, Rama, if I may direct this at you, how would you, this is an old debate. I mean, this is a debate that, has been had several times, but in today's times, it takes on, I think, a particular resonance it has. How would you respond to this kind of a critique that, that advertising promotes something like fairness, which even if people, some people want, a lot of people want, it may not merit promoting.
I once did a study where you ask women, do you want to become fairer? And a lot said no. On the other hand, if you say, if only I were a little fairer, it would do my features more justice, and 100% said yes. I know that some feminists will kill me, but I actually do believe that you have to be, you have to be a woman and you have to be on the darker side to really know how you feel that your features and colors would actually do more justice if only you were a little fairer. So the consumer has no problem with it. In this day and age, actually, the cultural labels that people attach to categories are sometimes different from the cultural labels that pundits and other people attach to them. And I used to laugh initially when people said that this is about empowerment. But the more you look at it, people are saying that, hey, listen, if I have the choice to be taller, I will wear high heels. Fairer, I will do this. I use kajal to change the shape of my eyes, so why not? And so I think it fits the times. It has a cultural label that is not old-fashioned. The same way people go after a lot of the television serials. But if you actually see them, and I watch all of them in all the languages, they're quite subversive. And there's something that you can learn in all of them. By subversive, I mean it tells you how to cope with everyday living if you're a woman. And so I really don't see a problem with that at all. So I'm on the side of Fair and Lovely, of the Fair and Lovely debate. And you just have to sit in a beauty parlor to see how many men are going in there to get facials, to know that Fair and Handsome could have many brand variants and still work.
Piyush,
I think there are two things to any communication: what to say and how to say it. And I think in this particular question, the how to becomes more important than the what. You are catering to a need which is felt by millions of people. How you say it has a great bearing on what messages you want to send out. Are you leaving out people who have been discriminated against because of their complexion? How are you going to do it? And I think that is what this lot and many others are paid for. What is very simple? What does my product do? It is written on a piece of paper. How do I communicate it? Brings in your sense of responsibility, that you're not starting a process of thinking which is against the grain of the society. So I think that is very, very important. Now, on a lighter vein, Alex research of men and women looking into mirrors. The first time I met Alec was in an elevator at Hindustan Lever. And we were very different agencies. We were bush-shirt and plain trouser people. Alec's company was suits and ties. And there's this big man that I heard of. And before we get to the marketing floor, he puts his hand in his pocket, flicks out a comb, which opened like a chaku, and he adjusted his hair. I was very, very impressed. I think that insight Alec got from his own experiences. Right, Alec? I'll tell you in greater detail later. Yeah. Yes, Santosh. So the point I was making is, yes, there is a responsibility on good communicators that what is your livelihood, how is your way of living.
I think just one last question, Aggie, before we sort of open it out and sort of have a more interactive experience. In terms of, there are a whole lot of new ads now, particularly in the last couple of years, which are consciously trying to, take out a more overt social role. So whether it's the Tata Tea ad, which talks about, the Jagore campaign, or there's Lifebuoy, or there's a ton of advertising of this kind. One way of seeing it is that this is, more and more brands are seeing a larger role for themselves. The other way of seeing it is a little more cynical to say that is, you're kind of exploiting what might be pent-up feelings that people have and associating them very superficially with the brand without really actually doing anything too much about it. How do you read this trend and what are your feelings about it?
I think Jagore started the year after Lead India started, but I think this I don't know, my gut says this is a fallout of a huge amount of presence on the digital space, because what the digital world allows you, it allows you to live a surrogate life, right? So before that came around, if you wanted to support something, you had to take leave from work or bunk college, go and stand behind somebody to support him. But now you can support anything you like with the click of a mouse. So you can save the whales, you can, be whoever you want to be without actually going through the trouble to back that conviction. Therefore, I think a lot of what happens in advertising in that space works of a trigger that this is what people would like to be seen as. And many times when we speak to teenagers, we always, get them saying that, I watch National Geographic and I watch BBC, but the numbers don't back them up. The numbers back up Fashion TV or something like that. Because there's something that they would like to be seen as. So every forward online or on internet, every time you share something with someone, forget whatever it is an ad for. It is first an advertisement for that person. Okay, it's a corporate ad for him because he would like to be seen as somebody who's sending this kind of stuff or likes this kind of stuff or supports this kind of stuff. So he's not going to send something that he likes but would not prefer to be seen as liking. And therefore, a lot of products and brands move into this space because it gives them what is an apparent immediate response. So many hits, so many likes, so many shares, because it works off a common insight that people would like to be seen as, having higher social values or, a larger role in society. I do not know, or maybe the debate is still out whether yet that converts into the actual behavior in the marketplace. But it certainly gives you quick, fast, apparently large response online because that's the most visible response. And most clients and us are actually not going to go down on the field and talk to all the taxi drivers in the country and ask them what they like. They're going to sit in our offices, check online, say, oh, a lot of people like this ad. And that I think results in a lot of brands gravitating to triggers that could be something that you forward. And therefore, there'll be brands that say, if besides saying what you have to say about the brand, if you do not plug a larger social good in a social manner, it's not going to get shared. And it's probably getting to a stage where even if it's irrelevant to the brand, It's a sponsored social content message. The sponsor happens to be a brand.
Okay. That's an interesting note to sort of, throw the floor, open to questions. And so if you might, if we can have mics in the audience and we can.
Hello. Hello to everyone. Well, before asking question, I must confess to Piyush sir that I'm a big admirer of your work. Hello. Yes, so to Piyush sir, I'm a big admirer of your work. And my question is, sir, that the recent regulatory changes, like 10+2 minute in an hour, the advertising can be broadcasted. So what kind of challenge will it bring to advertising agency as far as, storytelling or the communication about the brand is concerned?
See, if you are a believer in good communication, these numbers don't mean a thing to you. You will pay extra money to run a longer length if you believe that your message deserves a longer length. So I think these are realities that we'll have to live with. It's almost like saying, will it make me do 20-second ads all my life? It doesn't mean so at all. If you have the courage, if you have the belief, and if you think your message deserves it, you will pay that extra money and run a 90-seconder. That is my take, and this is going to be my recommendation to my clients as we move ahead.
I have two questions. One first for Alec. As a person who launched the brand Fair & Lovely in 1970,